Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Brenda and I'm the Director of Programming from See Kids Dream. I wanted to let you know a little bit about what we're doing today. See Kids Dream provides free service learning programs to schools so their students can gain important leadership skills while making our world a better place. Some of the student leaders at our schools who participate in our programs couldn't complete their in-person interviews with local nonprofit organizations before school closed. So we're hosting these organizations on here so students can do virtual interviews. These interviews are important so students can get their questions answered and take what they learn to decide the best way to help the issues that are important to them. Today, we are so happy to be hosting Jake from Shared Power. Welcome.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, great. So if any students are on here, let's go ahead and get started with your questions. You can type them in the comments and I'll ask Jake so he can answer your questions. Let's see. If you're on here, let's go ahead and get started with your questions. You can type them in the comments and I'll ask Jake so he can answer your questions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started to get us going. So first off, what is the main focus of your organization?
Sure. So Shared Power Network helps schools and other nonprofits fund and install educational solar panels. So we're working with schools to help kind of incorporate renewable energy into the classroom, as well as provide a little bit of free electricity, really, whether it comes from the rooftop or something on the school grounds. And it's a great way for students to kind of see and better understand how solar energy works and what it can do here in Ohio.
Great, great. Okay. So what are some of the things that you guys do then?
So far we've worked with a number of schools in a couple of different ways. First off, our bread and butter, our typical project is a 1 kilowatt solar installation. And basically that's the size of a parking space. If you can picture that amount of space up on your roof. And what we do is we work with local solar installers in Ohio. We pair up with them to help install these solar installations with schools. Once we get the installation set with the school, we then work with the teachers and the staff to better educate them on how solar energy works and provide them with materials and things like that that they can use in the classroom with the students. And so it's kind of from start to finish, we're educating everyone we can along the way and ensuring that each and every student that sees those solar panels understands how they work and what the benefits are associated with it. And so we want it to be kind of a continual thing. It's not just that 1 year the solar panels go up. It could be something that lasts for the whole lifetime of the solar installation, which is up to 30 years. So we really want to impact a lot of generations of students and make sure that everybody coming through that school understands how solar energy works and what it can do in the state and in the region.
Very cool, very cool. So how did your organization get its name?
So it's something that we kind of had a brainstorm about it, and we wanted to figure out how to incorporate the idea of power, of electricity, but in a more community-based sense. And so Shared Power Network is really what we're trying to achieve with each school that we work with. Those installations provide a lot of information and data of all the electricity that they're producing and all the sunlight that they're catching. And so we want to be able to let each school access another school's information.
Get us going.
And so when we do that, we're building a network of schools that can all share this information. And so if you have a cloudy day in Dayton, but you have a sunny day here in Columbus, students can log on and see, okay, this is how the clouds are affecting solar energy at this school in Dayton. But I can see in our school here in Columbus on this beautiful sunny day, how much energy we're producing. And so with each school that we work with, we're building into our Shared Power Network. And it's a great way for students to better understand, how geography can play in, how weather can play in. And there's a bunch of different iterations and a bunch of different ways that installations can be a little bit different. And so we think this is a great way to be able to build upon that. And there's a bunch of different experiments and ways you can use this information, all the way from grades 3 through 12, whatever it might be. So we're excited to continue to kind of build this network. And it's all right there in our name, Shared Power Network. We want to build this as large as we can, starting here in Ohio.
Great, great. I have a question that just came through on comments from Ridgewood, and they want to know, is solar energy better for the environment?
It is, yes. There are no harmful byproducts of solar energy. And so when you burn gas, natural gas, coal, there are kind of harmful side effects that go out into the environment. And so with solar, there's no issues like that. The solar panels, they collect photons from sunlight and convert that into electricity with no harmful byproducts. And so it's a great way to kind of reduce greenhouse gases and carbon emissions. And it's a carbon-free way to create electricity and to create power. So it's a great way to kind of help the environment. And each year, solar panels get more and more efficient. And so while a lot of people think about sunlight in Arizona or Florida or something like that, they do work a little bit better there than they do in Ohio, but they still function very well here in Ohio, and that will just continue to get better. And so that's a great way for everyone to kind of start to make an impact against some of these more harmful ways of producing power.
Terrific, terrific. Let's see, I have a question from Columbus Preparatory Academy, and they want to know if they would donate to your organization, what would you do with the donations?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of things we could do. We are always looking for partner schools in the state of Ohio. And so one thing we can do with donations is work with that school particularly. It's something that we have to clear with the principal and with the school to make sure that we can put a solar installation on their building or on their grounds. So that's one way we can do it is to put those funds toward a solar installation for that school. If for any reason we can't do that, sometimes not every roof can support a solar installation. If you have a bunch of large trees or a lot of shadows coming across your roof, sometimes you can't put in a solar installation. So another way we could use those funds is to benefit another school or another nonprofit here in Ohio, where we could put those funds toward a solar installation there. And so there are a bunch of different ways that we can all kind of chip in here. And we're working with charter schools, public schools here in Columbus, and over in Dayton right now. And it's something that we plan to continue to grow and work with as many schools as we can. So if that school particularly can't host an installation, we'll put those funds toward another school. And it's something that we can work with. We can work with any school to become part of the Shared Power Network, so they can access the data and the information that's coming off that, even if they can't themselves host a solar installation.
Terrific, terrific. Ridgewood wants to know, how much does it cost per school?
Another great question. So there are two kind of basic installations that we work on. One is that first installation I mentioned that's the size of a parking space. All in, it's about $6,000. So it does take a lot of support from community members. We go out for grants, which a lot of educational programs do. And so that's a more permanent installation that'll be there for 30 years, like I said, and it's a great way to kind of ensure that there's a continued impact on that community and that school, and to ensure that students 20 years down the road will also get that same information that you're getting now. Another way we can do it is with, we call them solar kits that are about $2,000. And these are much more mobile. So we'll be working with the school in the Dayton area on one of these solar kits. And what they're going to do is each month, they're going to put it on a different spot around their school to see which area has the best solar potential. And so they're going to be using it on their school's community garden. They're going to be using it on a portion of the school that doesn't have any outdoor lighting. So there are different ways that they're going to utilize this information, and their teachers are going to build in experiments around this to see if, one portion of the school is better, why, and how can we improve on that. And so these kits are a more mobile way to have a more interactive and a little bit more project-based learning, rather than something that's a little bit more, bolted into the roof, that might be a little bit less accessible. So there's two options there, $6,000 and $2,000. And so far we've done 3 of the roof mounted, those $6,000 projects, and we're working on a solar kit right now for the school in Dayton.
Terrific. And so how many schools are you really doing this with right now?
So we've got 4 partner schools right now, and a number of interested parties here in town. We're going to be, so about maybe 15, 20 years ago, one of our colleagues ran a similar program to this, and he called it Ohio Solar Schools. And I'm from Worthington. One of the first ones was in Worthington, and it went up in 1999 or 98. So it's been up for a while, back when I was in elementary school. And so our plan is to go back and visit a lot of these installations, because schools change and there are new construction projects and things like that, to go back and work with these districts that have previously hosted installations like this, to make sure that the panels are working, that everything's functioning, and to bring them into our partner schools, to make sure that we have as much information and data possible. Obviously right now with COVID-19, it's been a little bit challenging working with school districts, but we have a lot of interest, and we're really excited to, when we get past the health crisis, to be able to better work with schools, hopefully next semester, maybe into 2021. But we're planning on working with at least or around 10 schools a year. That's our kind of our goal. And like I mentioned, we have kind of 3 pilot programs, and we already have 1 lined up for next semester, after the summer.
Terrific, terrific. Are any of the schools in Hilliard?
We don't have any Hilliard schools yet, no. That would be great. Right now, locally, we have a school in Pickerington, and a charter school on Bethel Road in Columbus called Noble Academy.
Terrific, terrific. Ridgewood thinks that the kits sound very interactive and a great way for kids to learn.
Yeah, they are. We're working with the school system in Dayton. We're working with their STEM education coordinator. And he's very excited with all the ways that we can kind of create project-based learning activities around the solar kit.
Ridgewood, their whole 5th grade group is watching you right now, and they
Great.
want to know if you can explain how solar energy works versus what we're doing now.
Yeah. So solar power, you can get as complex as you want, but basically, when sunlight comes to the earth, there are photons in the sunlight, and the photons hit the solar panels, and with the kind of the chemical makeup of the panels, that photon is converted into electricity, and a current begins on those solar panels. And it's built of, there's one solar cell that's built into a bigger module, which is many cells. And with each of those cells producing electricity, an electric current starts. And once that current gets going, it has to get out somewhere. And so when those panels are hooked into the school, for example, that electricity feeds directly into the school. So when you have panels on your school roof, at any moment you plug in your computer or an iPad, or even turn on the lights in a classroom, the electricity that's being produced from those panels can be flowing directly through your light bulbs, directly through your computer charger, whatever it might be. But it works a little bit better for a few reasons than some of the typical ways that we produce electricity now. One is that solar panels can be local, so it can be on your roof. So there's no need for transmission. And long story short about transmission is if you push it for a few miles, you lose a lot of electricity along the way. And so if you have a coal plant or a natural gas plant that's 50 miles away from your school or from your house, there's a lot of electricity wasted pushing that electricity from that plant to your house, to your school. With solar panels that are on the roof, they can feed directly in. And so there's very little loss there. And like I mentioned earlier, there's really no harmful side effects to producing electricity with solar, where there definitely are when you do produce with coal or natural gas.
I know when you were at Riverside and you were doing an interview there, they
Mhm.
asked about what happens if power goes out.
Mhm.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting topic because a lot of people don't know when you put a solar installation in and you hook it up to the grid, which is the existing electrical network. When the power goes down, your solar panels go down as well, and that's a safety concern. So if the power goes down and line workers are coming out to try and fix it, to try to figure out the problem, if your solar panels are still functioning, there's still electricity being produced. And so they're at risk of being injured because they don't know that power is still being produced because the system is down. So as a safety concern, if your installation is hooked up to the grid, to the existing electrical network, it too has to shut down when the power goes down. And so that's called solar that's hooked up to the grid. If you have off-grid installations that are in no way hooked up to the current electrical network, those will function when the power goes down. And so recently with the wildfires in California, and they were having a lot of utility issues. Their utility provider was shutting down electricity to hundreds of thousands of people. And so California saw a lot of people trying to install off-grid solar so that they would not be affected when their power was shut off. And so people could keep their refrigerators running, or they could keep, washer and dryer, whatever it might be, a few things in their house going, so they wouldn't lose all the food that's in the fridge, so it wouldn't be spoiled, anything like that. So there are two ways about it, but if it's a system that's hooked up to the grid, which our school systems are, the ones that are the size of a parking space, those have to shut down when the power goes down. Otherwise, it's an unsafe condition for utility workers.
Terrific, terrific. So in the long run, do you save a ton of money on your electricity bills?
That's another great question. Solar is more expensive upfront. So initially, it'll be more expensive, but in the long run, you will save money. And so when we work with, there are bigger projects around the state where you're working with big manufacturing plants, like car manufacturers or food places that are producing food, things like that, that have a lot of electricity running through them. They can pay off their systems very quickly. They can pay off a multi-million-dollar system in 5, 6, 7 years. If you look at a system on a house, that's about, well, I guess they can vary in how much they cost, but if you look at a house system, those typically pay off in 9 to 11 years. And when panels live basically for 30 years, you pay off all of that upfront cost in 11 years. You're getting 19 years of basically free electricity. And so it's something that people have to decide, companies and homeowners, of if they want to take that upfront cost to create a more sustainable, much greener electricity, to basically they won't pay utility bills in 12 years, 13 years, all the way through 30. So there is cost associated up front, but in the long run, it does save you a lot of money.
Someone wanted to know if solar panels can go on cars.
They can. I actually just saw last year, Hyundai is working on one of their sedans is going to have solar panels on the roof to power a small amount of the car. So right now, with the efficiency of solar panels and how heavy cars are, a car can't run on solar panels alone. Not the way we typically think about it. There are solar car races, but they're extremely light. There's no radios, no motor, nothing like that, really light tires. So it's kind of it's a big science experiment a little bit. But with as solar panels become more efficient, you'll see more companies like Hyundai. They're going to put in solar panels to light. It might power the radio. It might power the headlights. It will power a small component, but it's not enough yet to power a car fully.
Terrific. Can solar energy run out?
Solar energy, it cannot run
Like
out.
they said, like if it's not sunny, so what happened,
Yeah, I was gonna, if the sun runs out, we're in big trouble. But solar power can run out when it's cloudy, when it's rainy, something like that. And that's why you'll see a lot of discussion around batteries. So the car company Tesla, they make a battery that is typically paired with solar panels. And so that's a way for the energy that's being produced from your solar panels to be stored, to be used later. That is one current downside of solar panels, is that the electricity being produced, if you do not have a battery, needs to be used right then and there. And so if you have a string of a couple of beautiful sunny days and you're producing a lot of power, that's great. But you might have a few days of cloudy, rainy days, and you'll be producing less power. They still produce a little bit of power, but not nearly as much as when it's sunny.
Terrific, terrific. Let's see. I've got another question from Columbus Preparatory Academy. They said, what ways can they help you?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I think one thing that we're trying to do with all the schools that we work with is obviously educate students and teachers and staff about solar energy. And a lot of people wonder if solar works in Ohio because we have cloudy days, because it's not as sunny as Arizona or Florida. I mean, it definitely works here. We're seeing that. And there are companies that have been around for, 10, 15, 20 years working with solar energy in the state. And companies can't last that long if it doesn't make sense. So it's important to make sure that students not only understand how solar works, which can be a little bit of a complicated system, but to kind of see and understand, we want to ensure that students realize that solar works here in Ohio, and they can kind of take that out into the community. And so one thing that we talked to Riverside Elementary School in Dublin about was kind of a community awareness campaign, and talking to family and friends about how solar energy works, and maybe I've got some materials that I'd be happy to share with any students or teachers out there about. It's a quick video that explains how solar energy works, and it can be really complicated. It can be really simple. There are a bunch of different minerals and chemicals that all go into the solar panels, but it's a really interesting process. And so, awareness, I think, is really important here in Ohio. There are a few groups around the state that promote renewable energy, whether it's wind, solar, or hydroelectric. And it's important to kind of keep those top of mind for people, and especially students. We're seeing it already with climate change, that a lot of the biggest activists are young people. They're in high school. And so it's really important to kind of see how, the next generations are going to be kind of leading the climate change charge. So I think it's important to start to build that community awareness, and ensure that, the students understand how it works. And if they have any questions, to reach out to, whoever it might be, whether it's Shared Power Network or another organization. But I really liked Riverside Elementary's idea of an awareness campaign. I think it's great to talk to your family, your friends, your community about this if you're passionate about climate change, and learn as much as you can. I know when I was going through high school, they didn't have an environmental studies class, but I talked to my old school district, and now they have AP environmental studies in high school, and they have an environmental studies elective for 9th and 10th graders and things like that. And so it's becoming more and more prominent in schools, and I think it's really important to kind of keep the ball rolling. and make sure that students are learning about this, because students are really interested in this and they care.
Terrific, terrific. I don't have any more questions coming in from Ridgewood right now, and I think you've answered just about all of them that I had from Columbus Prep. So is there anything else that you'd like to share about shared power and, why you're passionate about it and, what you want students to know?
Yeah, so I think, so for me, getting interested in solar energy, my dad actually has had a solar energy company for 11 years now. And he used to come to my elementary school with a little solar kind of like an RC race car, like a little car that ran off solar that was probably this big. And he would demonstrate how solar energy worked, back in 1995, maybe something like that. So it's something that I've been around for a long time, and obviously very passionate about it. I mean, my old elementary school has a big installation on the roof, and it powers 25% of the school. And so that's a pride point for me, in that my old town is they're adopting solar power and they see the benefit to it. And we're working with them to make sure that any new construction plans or things like that are going to have solar in mind. And so I think moving forward, it's really important to kind of keep this top of mind. And I think one thing that I would really like to push is that we're looking for new partner schools always. Like I said, even if a solar installation doesn't make sense on the school property for whatever reason, we can always, work with each other to provide, materials and curriculum around solar energy for teachers and students if they ever want to set up an interview like we did with Riverside. Anything like that, we're happy to do. We're obviously passionate about solar energy, and I'm really excited to see the amount of information that elementary school students already have on the topic is great. I think it's exciting to see that students are interested and they're knowledgeable and they want to know how to fix these problems and how to create solutions. And I really think that solar power is going to be a major solution moving forward. As the technology continues to get better, and as the state and the region kind of come around more and more to accepting solar power. So I think it's a very exciting field, both professionally and just in terms of interests. And so I'm really excited to see students who share that, and we're always happy to work with them in any capacity that we can.
And if a school does want to work on are there usually grants and stuff that you can get to help with that?
Yeah, so we work with grants. We look for obviously private donations and corporate sponsorships. So far we've been working off of private donations and grant money. And we're happy to work with school districts on attaining those, whether it's providing information or helping write the grant, whatever it might be. But there's also we're always looking for corporate sponsorships, and a lot of companies around Columbus and around the state, they support education, specifically scientific education, STEM, and they want to see programs like this. And so a lot of the big energy companies here in town, like AEP, IGS, they have programs or they have foundations that support programs like ours. And so, we're always looking for that, and we'll either partner with the school or help the school figure out how to do this. We never want to put the financial burden on the school. I know that schools they're always taxed for dollars. And so we want to make this an added benefit. We don't want to take away from anything.
Terrific, terrific. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Questions, and I'm sure some other students that couldn't join us today will be, look back on this video and see it. And we appreciate your partnership and supporting students as they try to make our world a better place.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. I appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. This has been a lot of fun, and I look forward to hopefully doing more in the future.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Right.
If you haven't checked out the Shared Power, they're on our website under our service hub, so you can look at information and then link to their website if you want to learn more about them. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.